Kody Brown has built a career rewriting history. He sits in those confessionals with that piercing gaze and half smile, attempting to persuade the world that he is the overlooked hero of a tale everybody else misconstrued. But during Sister Wives Season 20, Episode 4, the facade slipped once more. And this time it wasn't simply the words, it was about what he didn't. Because once again, Kody Brown spent an entire episode blaming everyone but himself. He blamed Christine for walking away. He blamed Janelle for being too independent. He even found a way to blame the kids for not wanting to spend time with him. But if you listened closely, if you really paid attention to the cracks in his voice and the way his words tripped over each other, you could hear something else underneath it all: fear of accountability, fear of the truth finally catching up, fear of being seen for who he really is, a man who built a family empire on control, then watched it crumble because he refused to take responsibility. And the irony, he still believes he is the victim. These days weren't a repeat of excuses. They were an act of delusion. Every time the cameras flashed to Kody, you could practically anticipate what was next. The sigh, the justification, the martyr act. He doesn't just deflect blame, he redirects it, shaping the story so he never has to look in the mirror. But this time, something felt different. The wives weren't buying it anymore. The kids weren't quiet anymore. Even the viewers, the ones who used to root for Kody to find redemption, have finally reached their limit. Because when you've lost your wives, your children, and your credibility, who is left to blame? Still, Kody attempted it. And in Episode 4, he provided us with all the excuses in the dictionary. It always begins the same way. Kody sits down, crosses his arms, takes that big, dramatic breath, and utters something to the effect of, "I don't know what happened. I just wanted all of us to get along." And suddenly, the show is on. In Sister Wives Season 20, Episode 4, Kody's whole confessional seemed like a rehearsed monologue, one based on denial, self-pity, and a dash of misplaced pride. He wanted us to think he is the man who attempted to keep it all together, but the ungrateful people surrounding him just wouldn't play along. He stared directly into the camera and declared he feels betrayed. He declared he has been attacked. He declared he is the one who gave up everything. But if you listened hard, you could hear the cracks beginning to set in. Because behind every "I did my best" was a subtle acknowledgement he knows he failed. When he spoke of Christine, the words tumbled out clipped and defensive. She wanted something else, he said. She didn't want to be a part of the family anymore, but that wasn't the whole story, and everybody knows that. Christine didn't leave because she needed something different. She left because she was sick of being invisible. She was sick of having children while her husband boasted of his devotion to one woman, Robyn, as if the rest didn't count, then Janelle. Kody's spin: she is too independent. She doesn't need him, the reality. Janelle was one of the few who attempted to speak like a grown up. She craved partnership, not domination. But in Kody's universe, autonomy equals defiance. And when he couldn't guilt Christine and Janelle, he did what he always does. He directed his anger toward the children. "They've been poisoned against me," he said. "They've ceased showing me respect." It was agonizing to witness, not because it was surprising, but because it was predictable. This is what Kody does best. He rewrites his failures into tragedies where he is the victim. Worse still is how comfortable he has become playing that role. Each time he dodges the blame, each time he says they instead of I, he allows himself to remain stuck in the same pattern. And that is why this family continues to break. Because you can't build peace on resentment. You can't rebuild trust when you won't take what you've done. Even as the episode hit the halfway point, it was obvious. This wasn't about the wives anymore. It wasn't about plural marriage, or distance, or communication. It was just about this man's failure to utter the simplest of words. I was wrong. He wants control but not responsibility, respect but not compassion, love but not work. And the truth is going to catch up with him sooner than he can persuade anyone out of it. For years he had labeled himself the leader. Now he is standing in the rubble of the family he led, wondering why no one's still following. Christine Brown didn't need to scream. She didn't need to yell or make accusations. She didn't have to win the argument because she'd already won. Her calm was the evidence. In Episode 4, each time Christine was on camera. The contrast bordered on cinematic. As Kody paced and rationalized, Christine just was serene, consistent, and unencumbered. She is no longer upset, she is finished. And that is what makes it so strong. Kody still discusses her as if she is the bad guy. She gave up on the family, he stated, as if she left a flawless existence. But the reality is Christine did not give up. She let go. There is a difference. Letting go isn't weakness. It is clarity. It is gazing back at decades of emotional neglect and saying, I don't have to live that way anymore. And in a way, Christine's calmness is her revenge. When Kody sits in that confessional, explaining how Christine just didn't want to put in the work, it is almost unbelievable, because for decades, that woman bore the emotional burden of the whole family: birthdays, holidays, relationships, children, peacemaking, faking that everything was okay when it wasn't. She did the work, he just didn't see it. And now her peaceful life without him says more than anything she could ever say to his face. You can hear it in the laughter she shares with her kids. You can see it in how comfortable her posture is now. That is not the expression of someone who gave up. That is someone who finally began living on her own terms. The viewers feel it too. Every time Christine appears on screen, people flood the comments with things like relief, freedom, and peace. Because it is not just her story. It is the universal story of anyone who has ever walked away from manipulation masquerading as love. In the meantime, Kody still doesn't get what he lost. He speaks about loyalty, but what he actually means is obedience. He confuses control with connection and compliance with commitment. And Christine, she quit getting those confused ages ago. There is this tiny beat in the episode. Blink, and you'll miss it, where she is conversing with Janelle, and she says, "He still doesn't get it, does he?" It is said softly, almost with pity. That line encapsulates everything. Kody's still fighting to win an argument that is already lost. Christine's long moved on. That is what makes her so threatening to him now. Not because she is fighting him, but because she doesn't need to. Her joy without him shatters the image he has cultivated of himself as the center of the universe. And he knows it deep down. He sees it in the way that people react to her. He hears it in the way that the kids automatically take her side. For the first time in his life, his words no longer have power. And when a man like Kody loses power, he doesn't reflect. He lashes out, with blame, with guilt, with half-truths. But Christine doesn't recoil. Because you can't control someone who is already free. If Christine had slipped away quietly, Janelle's strength was in standing her ground. In Sister Wives Season 20, Episode 4, you can see it etched on her face, that combination of exhaustion and clarity that comes only when you've been trying to repair something that was never yours to repair. For years, Janelle has been the voice of reason amidst the madness. She was the one keeping the family finances together, taking care of the children, and continually attempting to inject reason into discussions that led nowhere. She wasn't volatile. She was solid. She didn't compete for attention. She competed for answers. But now, she is through negotiating with delusion. When Kody began blaming everybody for the estrangement of the family, Janelle didn't yell him down. She didn't even appear angry. She appeared exhausted, the kind of tired that comes from realizing that no amount of effort will ever be enough for someone who refuses to listen. There's a moment in the episode, a small one, but it says everything. Janelle is sitting on her couch, her voice calm but firm, and she says, "I don't think Kody understands what partnership means." That's it. That's the whole story. Because Kody never wanted a partner, he desired followers. He desired a family who reflected his image, not one who opposed it. And Janelle's self-reliance, the very quality he once respected, has become his greatest threat. In his confession room, Kody refers to her as cold. He says that she doesn't need anyone. He presents it as a weakness, when in actuality it is survival. Janelle learned a long time ago that depending on Kody emotionally was like pouring water into a cracked glass. It just kept leaking out. But this episode shows something new. Janelle is no longer trying to make him see it. She's accepted that he won't. And that acceptance, that's her freedom. You can see it in her body language. She doesn't lean in when he talks anymore. She doesn't chase validation. When he goes on about loyalty, she simply listens to him with that gaze. That silent, knowing look that says, "I've already moved on, I just haven't packed yet," and Kody notices the distance. You can hear it in how he speaks of her. There is annoyance, sure, but beneath that, there is desperation. Because losing Janelle isn't like losing Christine. Christine moved out emotionally years ago. Janelle going away means the whole edifice of his rule comes tumbling down. Janelle was the link between order and anarchy, between his ego and reality. She was the one who made the unworkable system function somehow, and without her, it is just Kody and Robyn, sitting in the house he vowed would unite the family, now filled with the emptiness of what remains. And for the first time, you can see him acknowledge it. He didn't lose just wives. He lost the ones who made him appear functional. Janelle doesn't have to scream to be strong. Her quiet is strength. Her silence is the loudest thing in the room. Because sometimes being strong isn't walking away. It is standing still while all the fake stuff dissolves around you. Kody Brown has always known how to cry on demand. She doesn't scream, she doesn't lash out. She gets teary. She nods her head just enough to look fragile, just enough to tug at sympathy, and, in episode 4 of Sister Wives season 20, she did it again. It began with a sigh. Then there was the quivering lip, the tear-filled eyes, and that old refrain. I don't get why everybody's being so cruel. It is a pattern now. The tears appear whenever the accountability does. Because here's the thing, Robyn's tears have never been as much about feeling as they have about control. They disarm others. They change her from participant to victim, turning attention from what she has done and back to how hurt she is. And it has worked for years. But not anymore. In this episode, something's different. The audience isn't buying it. The other wives aren't coddling her. Even the editing doesn't shield her like it once did. Rather than quiet music, the silence hangs rather than empathy. There is awkwardness, because audiences have begun to realize what the tears actually are, a means of manipulation. When Kody gets upset at Christine, Robyn cries. When Janelle establishes a boundary, Robyn cries. When the children stand up for themselves, Robyn cries. Each time, her tears cause the room to change. The focus turns to her feelings, and suddenly, Kody is defending her again. The wives turn into aggressors, the children turn into disrespecters, and Kody turns into the protector. It is a pattern of emotional manipulation, and this episode reveals it to perfection. There is a point in time when Robyn says, "I just want the family back," but what she actually means is, "I want everyone to fall back into line." Because the family she wants doesn't really exist. It is not unity, it is control. It's about being the only one left standing beside Kody. Not because of love, but because everyone else has already walked away. And even then, her tears aren't enough to cover the cracks. You can see it in Kody's face. When she starts to cry, he doesn't rush to comfort her the way he used to. He looks frustrated, maybe even irritated, because deep down, even he knows it is not working anymore. The tears that once won him sympathy, now they just remind him how small his world has become. Robyn speaks of being lonely, being stuck in the middle. But the truth is, she is not in the middle. She has been on Kody's side all along. And that partnership has repercussions. The other wives don't view her as a victim, but as an accomplice. The children view her as the cause of their father's drift away. And the audience views her as the enabler, the silent voice that breathed approval into Kody's worst impulses. The irony is, she may actually be believing her own tale now. But one thing tears can't conceal: patterns. And after 2 decades, the pattern is unmistakable. Every time accountability walks into a room, Robyn's tears overflow it and suffocate the truth in empathy, except now. No one's grabbing a towel. For years, Kody Brown's kids attempted to maintain the peace. They smiled for the camera, they adhered to the script, and they convinced themselves that perhaps, maybe just possibly, their dad still loved them. Sister Wives Season 20, Episode 4 reveals otherwise. The silence has been broken, because this time the children are not remaining quiet. They are not afraid. They are not restrained. In one of the most cringe-worthy, nerve-wracking moments of the entire episode, Janelle's sons, Gabe and Garrison, are brought up again, though they are not there physically. They are not there. And that is their presence. Their names loom over him like a threat. Kody refers to them cursorily, disparagingly, as if they opted not to be in a relationship with him, but his tone betrays him. It is chilly, distant, as if he were discussing relatives rather than his own sons. And that is what hurts. These are the same boys who once idolized him, the same children who used to sit around waiting for their dad to arrive, only to discover that he never did. It is not that they didn't care about a relationship. It is just that they got sick of begging for one. It creates a tension that can be felt whenever their names are mentioned. Kody's eyes dart. His jaw clenches. He is angry, but not at himself. He is mad at them for drawing away. He accuses Janelle of turning them against him. He accuses Christine of poisoning the family. But never once does he pause to wonder what he did to make it happen. And that is the tragedy. Because the kids witness everything now. They've grown up seeing their father's favoritism unfold in real time. They saw who got his time, who got his love, who got the big house. They watched him protect Robyn's kids while ignoring their calls. They watched him make excuses for every broken promise. They watched him rewrite history. And this time, they're calling him on it. You can hear it in Gwendolyn's commentary. You can see it in Michelty's eyes. You can feel it in the way every child who speaks now does so without fear. They're done performing. In this generation of sister wives' kids, the trauma isn't being hidden. It's being unpacked, processed, spoken aloud. And that scares Kody because he founded his authority on silence. When the children were silent, he had power over the narrative. Now that they are talking, he is losing command. Quickly, and the thing about truth is, once you let it out, you can't stuff it back in. These children are not acting out of resentment. They're acting out of clarity. They've linked the dots between Kody's decisions and their anguish. And they've realized something powerful. They don't owe him anything anymore. Respect isn't automatic. Love isn't unconditional when it's one-sided. And loyalty has to be earned, not demanded. What we're seeing now isn't rebellion, it's recovery. The generation Kody tried to mold into obedience is becoming the generation that holds him accountable. And that, more than anything, is what he fears. Kody Brown's exit wasn't just a breakup, it was a liberation. For years, she played the role of the cheerful peacemaker, smiling through the pain, laughing off the neglect, convincing herself that if she just tried a little harder, her husband would finally see her. But Sister Wives Season 20, Episode 4 makes one thing clear. Christine isn't looking back. While Kody sits in his mansion pointing fingers, Christine is living proof that freedom looks good on those who choose themselves. In this episode, even though she's no longer part of the main household, her presence is everywhere. Each time Kody utters betrayal, disrespect, or disloyalty, you can bet he is referring to her. She is the specter that haunts his pride, the one who slipped away, not for revenge, but because she finally understood she deserved peace. And that is torturing him. Christine's scenes, though few and effective, find her giggling with her children, decorating her new house, and discussing her wedding with David Woolley. She radiates. There is a peacefulness in her voice, a warmth that has been absent for years. She doesn't sound like a woman who wished she hadn't left. She sounds like a woman who can breathe at last. And what really makes this moment hurt for Kody is how the fans respond to her joy. People aren't mad at Christine. They're cheering for her. They're toasting her freedom. They're labeling her brave. That is something Kody cannot abide. The fact that the woman who abandoned him is being lauded and he is being condemned. Because in his head, abandoning him was betrayal. In hers, it was survival. And for the first time, the show itself does not attempt to sugarcoat that reality. The cuts are not neutral. The imagery is stark, Christine flourishing while Kody crumbles. It is dramatic. It is poetic. It is karma. There is one line Christine has that really encapsulates it all. When you finally realize you are not the problem, everything gets easier. That line hits you over the head because it is not just true for her, but for every woman who has ever sought to earn love from someone who is never capable of giving it. Christine attempted to do it for decades. She prayed, she waited, she compromised, and ultimately decided that peace was never ever going to result from Kody. She had to make it for herself. Now she has stopped waiting for apologies that are never going to materialize. She has stopped performing for a man who never selected her. And that is why her happiness feels so strong. It is real. She is not trying to prove anything. She is just surviving. In the meantime, Kody is continuing to try and tell himself that she will regret splitting up. But the more we watch, the more obvious it becomes. Christine did not lose. Janelle Brown is always the level-headed one, the logical one, the quiet storm who felt that logic could cure everything. For years she was standing alongside Kody, attempting to reason out the chaos, juggling the books, raising the children, handling the emotions that no one else dared to navigate. But Sister Wives Season 20, Episode 4 reveals something we haven't witnessed yet. Janelle's patience is exhausted. The show begins with her sitting across from Kody, her face an ice mask. There is no hug, no small talk, just fatigue. The kind that doesn't stem from one fight, but from decades of attempting to make something work that was never meant to. Around the kitchen table, Kody begins the conversation as he always does. Defensive, self-pitying, manipulating the past. Janelle says he doesn't respect her, that he chose the kids over the marriage, that he listened too much to Christine. Janelle doesn't blink, she does not shout, she does not weep, she merely glances at him and states, "You haven't been my husband for a very long time." It is silent. It is brutal. It is the truth he was ducking, and you can see it register on him. Not because he didn't already realize it, but because she had finally spoken it aloud. Janelle used to take years of Kody's vows at face value. She took them as a partnership. She hoped he'd eventually appear for her the same way he did for Robyn. But belief also has a shelf life, and she has come to the end of it. She tells him she is sick of him rebranding the narrative to turn himself into the victim. Sick of being blamed for needing independence. Sick of being told that loyalty equates to silence, and for the first time, Kody doesn't have an answer. Because at the deepest levels, he knows Janelle was his last hope for redemption. Christine departed, Meri pulled away, but Janelle, she always attempted to make it halfway, and now she is done. There is a point when she says, "You think being a husband means being obeyed." I believe it means arriving. I think it is one of the most effective lines in the entire episode, because that is what distinguishes Kody from the women he lost. They wanted partnership, he wanted control. And when control no longer worked, he labeled it as disrespect. What is interesting about Janelle in this episode isn't so much her outrage. It is her clarity. She is not emotional, she is honest. She is saying what is true, and that makes her more threatening to Kody than anybody else. Because you can't gaslight somebody who is rooted in reality. At the end of their exchange, Kody is visibly upset. He tries to turn it around, saying, "You're not acting like a wife." And Janelle fires back, "You stopped acting like a husband." The silence after that says it all. In that moment, Janelle isn't just walking away from Kody, she's walking back to herself, and that's something he'll never be able to control again. If Christine represents freedom and Janelle represents clarity, next Meri depicts what occurs when you hold on too long. Audiences have been watching Meri Brown hang on to a marriage that ceased to be more than a decade ago. She has remained faithful to a ghost, standing up for a man who was long gone emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Sister Wives Season 20, Episode 4 offers something else. Not pity, not fantasy, but a heart-wrenching moment of realization. In one of the show's quieter moments, Meri finally confesses what fans have known for decades. She says, "He doesn't love me, not the way I want him to." There is no theatrics, no sobbing, only resignation. The kind that comes after you've wept all of the tears you are capable of weeping and conceded the man you've lived for will never see you the same way ever again. And that is what makes this episode sting so much. Because Meri isn't angry anymore. She is numb. We watch her sitting by herself, swiping through pictures, discussing memories that feel more fictional now. She discusses loyalty, a promise, remaining during the difficult times. But even she can't help but see the truth in her face. The only one sustaining this marriage is her. Kody goes out of his way to try not to hide his apathy. He calls their relationship friendship. He says things like, "I'll always care about Meri," as if she's an old neighbor instead of a woman who spent 30 years building a family with him. He says it without hesitation, without shame, as though erasing an entire marriage is just another item on his to-do list. And that's the moment the audience collectively gasps. Not because it's new information, but because of how casual he is about it. For Kody, letting Meri go isn't tragic, it is easy. Undertaking is convenient. For Meri, releasing means learning to breathe again. But even so, you can sense that she is still struggling with herself. She still talks about hope, still mentions prayer, still leaves the door open just a crack, because after decades of being told to wait, to endure, to have faith, she doesn't know how to stop waiting. And that's the heartbreak of it. Meri's storyline this season isn't about romance anymore. It's about self-respect and what it costs to finally choose it. There's a moment near the end of the episode where she says softly, "Maybe love shouldn't hurt this much." That line hangs in the air, and for once, it feels like she's saying it to herself, not to Kody. Because deep down, she knows it's over. She's just waiting for her heart to catch up to what her mind already knows, that the man she's loved all these years isn't coming back. And when that realization fully sinks in, that's when Meri's story will finally shift, from heartbreak to healing. But for now, she is standing at the edge, staring into the silence Kody left behind, deciding whether to keep waiting for a man who already moved on, or finally walk away from the wreckage. At first glance, the Brown family mansion looks perfect, big, bright, and beautiful. But Sister Wives Season 20, Episode 4 leaves no doubt. Perfection does come at a cost, and this house was constructed on tears. Every expansive shot of Kody and Robyn's house seems more frigid now. The giggles are missing, the atmosphere is hollow. It is too still for a family that formerly insisted togetherness mattered most. And it is because this house isn't about unity. It is about isolation. It is not merely a house, it is a symbol. A castle for the two chosen, constructed out of everyone else's emotional wreckage. In the early years, Kody would preach about equal sacrifice, about all the wives getting equal love and equal opportunity. But now he is living in comfort with Robyn while the rest of his family is dispersed, living in tiny houses, beginning anew from scratch. You can almost hear the irony. The man who once taught plural unity is now living like a monogamist king. There is a revealing scene in the show when Robyn says, "I didn't want this. I wanted a family." She is crying again, but this time it doesn't ring true. Because if she really wanted the family, she'd own up to having already received what she desired. Kody, to herself. That family she misses out on is the fantasy in which she got to be the victim and still be the favorite. That fantasy's disappeared. Now, even Kody's face betrays it. He appears agitated within that mansion, pacing, swearing how everybody abandoned him. Truth is, he is not abandoned. He is alone, by his own decisions. All the walls in that house ring with the voices he closed out. Christine's laughter, Janelle's sense, Meri's patience. They're all gone, replaced by silence and regret. What's left is Kody's anger. Anger that the family he once ruled by fear and favoritism has learned to live without him. There's a chilling part where Kody says, "They think I'm the villain," and Robyn responds, "You're not the villain." But even she doesn't sound convinced anymore. Because deep down, they both know that no matter how they spin it, the optics are clear. They're living comfortably while the others rebuild from the ashes. And for fans, that mansion isn't a dream. It is a monument to hypocrisy. It is evidence that Kody's definition of family was never about unity or faith. It was about image and control. And now that the cameras are revealing what really goes on in there, that picture is disintegrating. There is no happiness in that place anymore, no laughter, just guilt, strain, and the thick atmosphere of denial. Kody refers to it as his home. Robyn refers to it as our sanctuary. But to all of us who are watching, it appears to be a fortress constructed to exclude the truth. Because however lovely the walls may be, they can't conceal what is lacking, the love, the family, the harmony that made this tale worth viewing in the first place. For more than a decade, Kody Brown was able to act the role. The suave father of 18, the self-assured head of a plural family, the man who maintained he was just doing his best. But Sister Wives Season 20, Episode 4 makes it official. The audience isn't believing it anymore. The public has shifted. In the early days, fans cut Kody some slack. They felt the weight of plural marriage was simply a lot to handle. They empathized with the struggle, the juggling, the constant effort to keep everyone contented, but that sympathy is lost. Now, after years of seeing him manipulate the truth, blame his wives, and sidestep accountability. Fans have finally called it. Kody isn't struggling. He is sidestepping responsibility. Social media erupted the night this episode aired. The hashtags weren't polite. Number Kody Brown exposed. Number Team Christine. Number Justice for Janelle. They dominated. Seka's fans have watched enough every moment of Kody sitting in self-pity, while his family gets on with their lives without him, is like poetic justice. Viewers aren't witnessing a misunderstood man anymore. They're witnessing a manipulator who constructed his own demise. And what is incredible is the way calmly it is all falling apart. There is no dramatic confrontation this time. No yelling matches. Just quiet truth cutting deeper than any argument ever could. You can tell Kody feels the shift too. His interviews have a defensive edge now. He keeps saying things like, "They're rewriting the story," and "I've been misunderstood." But no one's buying that anymore, because the story doesn't need rewriting. The cameras caught everything. They caught the favoritism. They caught the blame. They caught the slow erosion of trust, love, and respect. And now, as the audience rewatches those moments with new eyes, the narrative has flipped completely. Kody isn't the misunderstood husband anymore. He's the cautionary tale. He's the man who wanted control more than connection, who chose pride over partnership, who lost everything he claimed to value because he refused to see himself as the problem. Even longtime fans, the ones who once defended him, are admitting it now. This version of Kody isn't just flawed. He's cruel, and the more he talks, the worse it gets. Every interview feels like another nail in his own coffin. He just keeps repeating things like, "I just want respect." But respect isn't given out of fear. It is earned through humility, something he has never demonstrated. And meanwhile, the women he threw aside, Christine, Janelle, even Meri, are all finding something he can't anymore: peace. They're happy, grounded, free. He is angry, lonely, and loud. The contrast couldn't be more striking. Fans have turned because they finally see what was in plain sight. Kody Brown isn't the victim of his family's actions. He is the author of his own demise. And for the first time in years, the audience isn't tuning in to see how he'll make it right. They are tuning in to see what happens when the man who wanted to lead ends up totally alone. You can see it on his face now. Kody Brown isn't angry anymore. He is lonely. Not the kind of loneliness that hits because you are alone in a room, but the kind that smacks you when you realize the people who used to love you have stopped waiting for you to be different. In Sister Wives Season 20, Episode 4, that loneliness permeates every scene. It is in the way he paces in his solo interviews. It is in the space between his words. It is in the little quiet moments when even Robyn doesn't know what to say. For years, Kody's whole sense of self was wrapped up in being the patriarch. He adored that word. It made him feel strong, respected, and significant. But now, that title empties. Because what is a patriarch without a family? As the episode progresses, we see a man who is coming to realize, too late, that control isn't connection. That obedience isn't love. That isn't how fear creates loyalty. It destroys it. He is sitting there railing on about betrayal and disrespect. But each time he says they, you hear what is really scaring him: accountability. Because they betrayed him not. They simply stopped allowing him to rewrite their reality. You can view the cracks in his confidence. His voice that once boomed is smaller now, his excuses thinner. He is constantly saying things like, "I did everything I could," but he really does sound like he is trying to convince himself and everyone else more than anything else. And even Robyn, his final devoted follower, appears exhausted. Her usual empathy looks strained, like she's realizing that being the only one left beside him might not feel like winning after all. There's a telling moment when she says softly, "You can't keep being angry at everyone forever." It's the first time we've heard her say something that sounds like pushback. Kody's face tightens. He doesn't respond right away. You can almost sense the silence being drawn between them. Because even he knows she is right. But rather than absorb it, he does what he always does. He deflects. He blames the wives, the children, the media, anyone but himself. And that is when the tragedy of it all really strikes. This is not the assertive man from the first seasons. These are the man trapped in his own ego, seeing the walls closing in. The wives have moved on and rebuilt their lives. The children have grown up and moved on. But Kody, he is still repeating the same arguments, holding on to a past that no longer exists. Even his house, that huge house with Robyn, is more like a jail now. It is full of reminders of what he gave up, not what he created. Every vacant chair, every quiet dinner, every echo in those gigantic empty halls is a reminder. He brought this on himself, and for the first time you can see he knows that. He just doesn't know how to set it right, or if it is even possible anymore. When Sister Wives originally started, all the women in Kody Brown's life had one dream, one huge, happy, unified family. They constructed houses next to each other. They had children together. They thought love could multiply, not divide. But Season 20, Episode 4 reminds us of what really happens. It divided. And now that divisiveness has emancipated them. Christine, Janelle, and Meri, 3 women who previously identified themselves based on their relationship to Kody, are finally identifying themselves independent of him. And truly, it is lovely to see. Christine is flourishing. Her house is lively again, laughter, color, family meals that don't center around tension. She mentions orchestrating her wedding to David Woolley. And there is a shine that no camera light can reproduce. It is peace. You can spot it in her stance, in her voice, in her smile. For the first time ever, she is not tiptoeing around. She is not holding her breath, hoping for someone to choose her. She chose herself first, and that choice turned everything around. Janelle, in the meantime, has gained her voice. The woman who once played the peacemaker now speaks confidently. She is operating her own business, establishing her own boundaries, living life on her own terms. There's a quiet confidence about her, the kind that only comes after years of being underestimated. When she talks about the future, it's all I will, not we will. And that small change says everything. And then there's Meri. Her story is different. She's not fully healed yet, but she's healing. Slowly, in one of the most reflective moments of the episode, she talks about rediscovering herself. She confesses she doesn't even know who she is apart from being Kody's first wife. But rather than sounding lost, she sounds ready to rebuild, ready to rediscover, ready to be something more than a chapter in his book. That is the quiet triumph of this episode, seeing these women reclaim their lives, piece by piece. They don't require Kody's validation anymore. They no longer have to fight for attention. They no longer have to validate themselves to someone who never did. Any of them is demonstrating that life after heartbreak doesn't merely exist. It can be improved. It is a lesson that is deeply resonating with audiences. The fans aren't only watching a family disintegrate anymore. They're witnessing women rise up from the ashes of a broken system. The show began as a plural marriage story, but it is concluding something much larger. A tale of independence, healing, and finding strength you didn't know you had. And the irony? The man who attempted to hold everything together through brute force is the one who was left alone. The women he underestimated, they're the ones he left behind. The episode ends on a note that is almost poetic in its simplicity. Kody Brown, the once man with wives, children, and a house of perpetual noise around him, sits in silence. No cameras blinding, no large family gatherings, no bedlam to mask the rest. There is just him and the reminder of all that he has lost. For years, Kody shared with the world that he was the glue that kept this family stitched together. He professed that he was the one in charge, the guardian, the one who bore the weight of everyone else's feelings. But the truth has finally caught him. He wasn't the glue. He was the crack that cracked the foundation. In one of the most chilling confessionals of the entire season, he stares straight into the camera and utters, "I did everything I could," but his eyes say otherwise. He knows he didn't. He blamed Christine for abandoning him. He blamed Janelle for being too strong. He blamed Meri for being aloof. He blamed the children for disrespecting him. And when there was no one left to blame, he blamed the lifestyle itself. But not once, not a single moment, did he look in the mirror and say, "This is on me." That is the tragedy of Kody Brown. He yearned for control over connection. He yearned for obedience over love. And in the end, he received neither. Instead, the wives, the women he had underestimated for all those years, have constructed new lives that no longer revolve around him. They're laughing again. They're rebuilding their homes, their faith, their confidence. They're discovering that joy is not found in approval, it is found in peace. To see Kody observing them move on is nearly agonizing, because you can observe the understanding dawning on him, not in words, but in silence. What is the expression on his face when he speaks of being lonely? No longer frustration, but grief. The type that hits when you come to terms with being the villain of your own narrative. And that is what Sister Wives, Season 20. Episode 4 is left with. Not a tidy conclusion, but a reckoning. Kody's reckoning. He can get a new home. He can begin anew with Robyn. He can act as if he is okay. But each wall he erects is just another testament to the walls he erected between himself and all the people who cared for him. This is no longer reality television. It is a mirror. A mirror reflecting what occurs when empathy is replaced by pride, when connection is traded for control, when love is made conditional. Christine, Janelle, and Meri didn't leave a marriage behind. They walked toward themselves. And that is the conclusion this story has always deserved. Because while Kody ponders in his mansion, wondering where everything went wrong, the rest of the family already knows. It went wrong when he gave up fighting for them. It went wrong when he opted for ego over effort. It went wrong when he forgot that leadership without love is simply control. So, as the credits roll and the music fades, one reality remains in the air. Kody Brown didn't lose his family. He gave them away. And they're never coming back.